In the following, I would like to talk about the song Du hast den Farbfilm vergessen by Nina Hagen from the perspective of Germanische Heilkunde. According to the official information, the song is about a holiday on the Baltic Sea island of Hidensee. The singer is angry with her boyfriend Micha because he had forgotten a color film and so the holiday could not be captured to her satisfaction. She threatens to leave him if this happens again. If you listen to the song often, this description of Nina Hagen's holiday seems rather strange. She sings, "Everything hurts so much." Her sorrow has discharged loudly into the blue sky. She resisted Micha's touch and her bare foot stomped madly in the sand. When she returned home from her holiday, she looked at the photo album. Micha had only photographed her naked in a bikini and in a mini, but in such a way that bystanders might think he was interested in the landscape. The memory of Micha's behavior was so terrible for Nina that it brought tears to her eyes. Looking at the pictures seems to trigger something in her, because once again everything hurts. In the refrains, she talks about her soul, describing how everything had been blue and white and green, but this is no longer real. It doesn't really take many words to understand that the text is not about dissatisfaction over a forgotten color film, but about the description of sexual abuse suffered. Was Nina Hagen singing about her own abuse here? You could assume so, if she had written the lyrics, but she didn't. The lyricist of these lines is Kurt Demmler. We know from Dr. Hamer's discoveries that from the moment the two territorial areas in the cerebral cortex of an individual are occupied by a DHS, a constellation occurs. See video flyer constellation. These territorial area conflicts have certain consequences. One of these is biological maturity stop. The individual may develop intellectually but remain socially and emotionally stagnant. To put it simply, if you have a second conflict at the age of 5, for example, and do not resolve it, you will remain a child of 5 years old socially and emotionally for the rest of your life. These people biologically look for a suitable environment at eye level, e.g., partners, friends, who also have a corresponding biological maturity. If a DHS has a sexual content in these territory areas, this has an effect on sexual behavior. Dr. Hamer writes, for example, that he has observed that lesbian women always have a territory area constellation plus an active fear disgust sugar relay. At least one DHS area and one sugar relay have a sexual connotation. An example to illustrate this. If the first territorial DHS was a beating by the father at age 3, the boy is territorially gay with a fixation on the father. The father has conquered the child and is now his boss. The son not only worships his father normally, but idolizes him and goes through fire for him. If the beating had a sexual content, e.g., the child was beaten up by the father because he caught him playing doctor games, and at the age of 5 he gets another DHS, the son later also becomes physically gay. The later adult male, who has the biological maturity level of 5 years, now also looks for sexual partners with the biological maturity of 5 years. This can go so far that he commits sexual assault on children. We also know from the rules about territoriality how the female-male feelings changes. Assuming a right-handed boy has his first conflict at the age of 5, his male territorial side closes. He then takes on a female development, and as long as the conflict remains alone, the boy perceives and develops like a girl, depending on the conflict activity, of course. This can go so far that the boy feels he's in the wrong body. What follows from this? Biologically, there are only two genders, male and female. So if a man has a feminine soft development, the cause is not to be found in some made-up social gender, but in life. Something has always happened. A DHS can also happen through sex education. Here in this paper from the BZGA, for example, it is demanded that a 2-year-old child should be able to provide information about pleasurable experiences through physical closeness, or that a 4-year-old child should be able to use sexual language. What else can we say about this? On whose research are such recommendations based? You give the poor souls of children sexual conflicts, and in doing so, you produce girls who feel masculine and boys who feel feminine, including the most diverse sexual orientations. A biologically mature person would never come up with such an idea. The cause of the increasing pedophile scandals of modern times lies in this whole unbiological system in which we live. Marc Dutroux and his more than 25 dead witnesses, the Sachsensumpf, Jimmy Savile, abuse in Christian and political organizations, the model teacher Gerold Becker, who abused children at the Odenwald School for years, the Greens' demand in the 1980s for impunity for sex with children, Kendler and his pedophile network and his disgusting child experiments, child pornography, Edati, Metzelder, or currently in Thüringen, and. Where does it all come from? We know from the biographies of many pedophile offenders that they experienced similar things in their childhood to what they later practiced on helpless children as adults. The most famous example of this is probably the fairground murderer Jürgen Bartsch, who was forced by his adoptive parents to live locked up in a cellar room with barred windows and artificial light until he was 6 years old. He had to put up with violent attacks and his adoptive mother's obsession with cleanliness. She was still washing him in the bathtub at the age of 19. Bartsch was sent to a Catholic boarding school at the age of 12. During this time, he reports sexual abuse by a priest. Nothing comes from nothing. We are not born crazy. They are sexual DHS with accompanying maturation disorders. In a biological sensible system based on the laws of nature, the pedophile scandals and all the absurd insanities that are currently outdoing each other almost daily would not exist at all. Every system that is not based on the laws of nature or that even goes against the laws of nature, whether well intentioned or not, has disappeared and will disappear. But in the course of their existence, sooner or later, those have created and will cause infinite suffering. Back to the color film lyricist Kurt Demmler. Kurt Demmler was the most famous lyricist and songwriter in the GDR. He wrote over 10,000 lyrics, including others for the aforementioned Nina Hagen, for Karat, the Pudis, and almost all the musical greats of the East. There were always rumors about him, as he liked to surround himself with very young girls. In 2000, the first criminal proceedings were opened against Demmler for sexual abuse of children. He was charged again in 2008. According to Wikipedia, Demmler is said to have assaulted 212 young girls between 1995 and 1999 alone. We read there. He repeatedly had young girls visit him and induced or forced them to perform sexual acts. If parents became suspicious and approached him about this, he accused them and the children of lying, threatened them with lawyers and a libel suit. The intimidated parents usually did not take any further steps. Demmler stylized himself rhetorically as a victim, especially on his website. The lawyer for the girls involved in the 2009 trial, Eva Kuhn, said, "As far as I know, there were always parents who noticed this and sometimes sought to talk to him. However, according to the information I have, the unanimous opinion was that nothing could be done about him. He is a prominent person, he has a certain power or influence, and nothing can be proven against him." Kurt Demmler committed suicide in 2009 during the trial by killing himself in his cell with the help of two bells. Now, if you know about Germanische Heilkunde and Demmler's crimes and listen to the color film, I would assume that Demmler experienced sexual abuse as a child and incorporated this experience into the color film text. Listen to the color film from this point of view.
Hoch stand der Sanddorn am Strand von Hiddensee. Micha, mein Micha, und alles tat so weh, dass die Kaninchen scheu schauten aus dem Bau. So laut entlud sich mein Leid ins Himmelblau. So böse stampfte mein nackter Fuß im Sand und schlug ich von meiner Schulter deine Hand. Micha, mein Micha, und alles tat so weh. Tu das noch einmal, Micha, und ich geh. Du hast den Farbfilm vergessen, mein Michael. Nun glaubt uns kein Mensch, wie schön's hier war. Du hast den Farbfilm vergessen, bei meiner Seel. Alles blau und weiß und grün und später nicht mehr war. Nun sitz ich wieder bei dir und mir zu Haus und such die Fotos fürs Fotoalbum aus. Ich im Bikini und ich am FKK, ich frech im Mini, Landschaft ist doch da, aber wie schrecklich, die Tränen kullern heiß. Landschaft und Nina und alles nur schwarz-weiß. Micha, mein Micha, und alles tut so weh. Tu das noch einmal, Micha, und ich geh. Du hast den Farbfilm vergessen, mein Michael. Nun glaubt uns kein Mensch, wie schön's hier war. Du hast den Farbfilm vergessen, bei meiner Seel. Alles blau und weiß und grün und später nicht mehr war.
Perhaps someone in this audience will be interested in researching Demmler's biography or others of his texts on sexual DHS. Perhaps the mystery can be solved. Clues would be the Micha, Hiddensee, or punches. But it is more important to understand and spread Germanische Heilkunde. It is the best protection against any idea of biologically immature children growing up.